The wind howled across the open plains as Emma stood at the threshold of the old ranch house, clutching a small suitcase to her chest. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear her own breathing. She had come here as a last resort, a mail-order bride contract arranged by letters, hope, and desperation. She expected an old widower, perhaps lonely, perhaps kind. But the man who opened the door stole her breath entirely. Luke Matthews was tall, broad-shouldered, his brown eyes steady but unreadable beneath the shadow of his hat. He didn't smile. He simply studied her, as though looking past the dust on her skirts and the fear in her eyes, straight into her hidden past. "You're late," he said quietly, not in anger, but in observation. I didn't know there would be snow," she whispered, her voice trembling. He stepped aside without another word. The warmth from the crackling fireplace spilled toward her, and yet Emma shivered as she entered, not from the cold, but from the weight of the moment. This was no longer a dream or a letter. This was her life. Her eyes widened at the sight of a cradle in the corner. A baby. He had not mentioned a child. She turned to ask, but Luke was already lifting the kettle, calm as sunrise. "You look hungry. Sit." Her throat tightened. She sat at the table but folded her hands anxiously. Finally, unable to hold back, she whispered, "Mr. Matthews, I don't know how to be a wife." He looked up slowly, his gaze steady, unwavering. Then, he said gently, "You're exactly where you need to be." Emma sat in silence as Luke placed a bowl of stew in front of her. The rich aroma filled her senses, but her hands trembled too hard to lift the spoon. Luke didn't comment, he simply took the seat across from her. The only sound came from the crackling fire and the faint coo of the baby in the cradle. After a long pause, Luke finally spoke. "You were honest," he said. "That's more than most folks are." Emma blinked, startled. "Honest? You said you don't know how to be a wife. A woman who thinks she knows everything is a danger. One who's willing to learn. That's someone you build a life with." Tears burned her eyes at his unexpected kindness. She had expected instruction, judgment, not acceptance. Luke stood and lifted the baby, holding her with a tenderness Emma never thought a rancher capable of. "This is Clara," he said softly. "My daughter." His voice caught, not with weakness, but with memories unspoken. "Her mama passed last winter." Emma's chest ached. "I'm sorry." Luke nodded once. No further words were needed. For the first time, she took a full breath. He turned then, his eyes meeting hers with steady warmth. "You ain't here to replace anyone. You're here to be yourself." And it was then Emma realized, this wasn't a contract. It was a chance. The next morning dawned pink and gold. Emma woke to the sound of boots on the porch. She peeked out the window to see Luke saddling 2 horses. "You're riding with me," he said when she stepped outside, shawl wrapped tight. Her eyes widened. "But I don't know how to ride." Luke paused, one eyebrow lifting slightly. "Good thing I do." He helped her into the saddle, his hands strong around her waist. Emma's breath caught as she settled on the horse, the world suddenly vast before her. They rode in silence toward the far pasture. The land was breathtaking, stretching endlessly across rolling hills. But her peace shattered when a group of ranch hands rode up, curiosity sharp in their eyes. "So this the new bride?" One of them smirked. Another chuckled. "Hope she can do more than look pretty." Emma's cheeks burned with shame. She wanted to disappear, but Luke's voice cut through the air like thunder. "That's Mrs. Matthews," he said coldly. "And she's worth more than any man who runs his mouth instead of his cattle." The men lowered their heads immediately. In that moment, Emma realized something powerful. Luke Matthews did not just accept her. He defended her, before she had even proven herself. And deep inside, something bloomed. Days passed in rhythm. Emma learned to cook over open flame, to tend chickens, even to soothe baby Clara through the long nights. Each time she failed, Luke was nearby, not to correct, but to quietly guide. One evening, a storm rolled across the plains. Wind battered the house, thunder cracking the sky. Clara cried in fear, and Emma instinctively rushed to the cradle, lifting the baby into her arms. She held her close, humming softly, swaying until the child's crying turned to gentle breaths. When she looked up, Luke stood in the doorway, eyes unreadable. "You calmed her," he said quietly. "She just needed to know she wasn't alone." Luke stepped forward, his voice deep, steady. "So did I." The air between them shifted. Not with desire, but with something deeper. Trust. Emma felt for the first time that she hadn't just arrived here, she belonged here. The next morning, Emma awoke to the smell of fresh coffee. She entered the kitchen to find Luke already at the table, Clara on his lap, gurgling happily. He gestured to the seat beside him. Sit. Emma sat, heart pounding. Luke reached across the table, his rough hand covering hers. You said you don't know how to be a wife, he said quietly. Truth is, I don't know how to love again. Emma looked at him in shock. But, he continued, eyes steady, I'm willing if you are. Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but of relief. She squeezed his hand gently. I don't know the ways, Emma whispered, but I know how I feel when I'm near you. Safe. Seen. Luke's expression softened, his voice dropping to a tender murmur. Then don't worry about being perfect, he said. Just lie down your fears, and love me the way you already do. There were no wedding bells, no crowd. Just the beginning of a love born not from knowledge, but from choice. From two hearts ready to learn each other, one sunrise at a time.